All right, welcome back to the Dungeon of Doom. I am Kyle Mikey, Lions beat reporter for MLive, joined as always by this guy, Ben Raven.
It's cheesy.
Ben, Lions 52, Titans 14. It was very late in the game when I was doing my game start, and I'm writing it, and I'm like, holy crap, like this game was 14-14 at one point. And the Lions scored 38 unanswered, 52-14 win. Extremely impressive day from the offense on a day where Jared Goff threw for 85 yards. This game just doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense. Just his efficiency continues. Only 3 incompletions. It's like 21 touchdowns to 18 incompletions or something like that. But just a weird day. I mean, they took full advantage of a big special teams day. The defense with some takeaways, and Jahmyr Gibbs remains a game changer. But yeah, man, it was 14-14 early in the second quarter. Calvin Ridley was on pace for like 900 receiving yards, and it was like, oh my God, are they going to be in a shootout with the Titans? And then the Titans turned into the Titans, and the Lions turned into a championship contender that they are.
It's an unbelievable game that I just haven't seen anything like it before. Scoring touchdowns were Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Sam Laporta on a pass from David Montgomery, Khalif Raymond on punt return and on offense, Brock Wright, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's 6 guys scoring 7 touchdowns. A Lions record. I don't want people's eyes to glaze over with some of these numbers, but the numbers are incredible. The Lions are on their this has been the best month of offensive football in franchise history. Most points in franchise history over a 4-game stretch. They've scored 21 touchdowns over those 4 games, a franchise record. 30 points in all 4 games, a franchise record. They've scored at least 4 touchdowns in 4 straight games, a franchise record. Perhaps maybe most impressive of all, 24 offensive touchdowns in the last 5 games, 19 incomplete passes. This is like Madden on rookie mode kind of football from Detroit's offense right now.
Yeah, 52 points, second most in franchise history, the most since 1997 on Thanksgiving. It was funny. Lomas Brown was asking me, he's like, was I on that team? I was like, no. And he's like, oh man, was that Scott Mitchell in the Lions? Yeah. It's like, yeah. But so pretty funny there. But yeah, 52 points, second most in franchise history. Just, Amon-Ra St. Brown, what do you have, 7 yards today?
Yeah, on 2 catches. One of them a touchdown.
Like what?
And the touchdown was a brilliant call, and I got to give Ben Johnson some flowers here, and I'll be standing in line behind a long line for that. He's one of the best in the league for a reason. He's been courted by teams for head coaching positions for a reason. We all know it. And he's just like, the Lions are top 5 on the ground and via the air. Yeah. Like that's tough to stop. Like 2 teams did it last year, the Lions and the 49ers at the end of the year. And they're doing it again. It makes you so tough to stop. And when you throw in the trick plays that we've now seen score 4 touchdowns in the last 5 weeks,
that's awesome.
It's brilliant stuff. It's just going for the jugular. And I really loved 2 play calls from Ben Johnson in this game at the goal line. The first was that 1-yard pass to St. Brown. Mm-hmm. Listen, we all knew exactly what they were going to do, right? Ram David Montgomery. It's what they do every time. He's one of the best goal line backs in the league. And Ben Johnson used that tendency against Tennessee, which, by the way, has Isaiah Simmons and a very good defensive front against the run. And they sold out against the run on the play action to Montgomery. And St. Brown, I mean, if you watch it, like he sells the run block so well. And then just leaks behind the defense to the left. And that's probably the most wide open Amon-Ra St. Brown, first team All-Pro ever be for a touchdown. And then later in the same quarter was the trick play, again using Montgomery against Tennessee, essentially, the tendency there, pitching the ball to Montgomery, and then everyone thinks he's going to barrel into the end zone, and instead he drops back to pass and throws a dime piece to Sam Laporta. And the play was actually pretty well covered. Jared Goff said after the game that they actually didn't get the defensive look they wanted. They ran it anyway. It worked anyway. David Montgomery, he's so good with his legs, but he's a former high school quarterback, and we saw it in this game, and the Lions poured it on Tennessee after that.
Yeah, St. Brown said the same in the locker room. Like, we didn't get the look that we wanted on that halfback toss pass, but I mean, yeah, that was like the most contested touchdown of the day for the Lions. So that's really saying a lot. And just, man, it was one of those games where you walk into the locker room and you're like, there's so many directions I could go. What do you even talk about with this one, man? Like, leave Khalif Raymond on the or the punt returns, Khalil Dorsey on the kick returns, Amik Robertson 2 punch outs. Like the offense, just like you said, 6 guys score. They do it a bunch of different ways, and just that's just impressive stuff. They have an answer for everything.
It is, and it's impressive that you can score 52 points, and I'm not sure the offense is really the story of the day. They converted their opportunities, 5 for 5 in the red zone. They also had either 4 or 5 possessions that began inside Tennessee's 30-yard line, and that was due to 2 picks by Chard Nowaski and Kirby Joseph. There's a fumble recovery in there that was poked out by Amik Robertson. That was a great play by Amik. He had 2 fumbles that he created in this game. And then we got to get to Khalif Raymond on return. You mentioned Dorsey on the kick return, but Khalif Raymond, punt return from 90 yards for a touchdown, set up another touchdown with a 64-yard return. And also had the touchdown on offense. Like, he's one of my favorite stories on this whole team. I think really embodies the ethos that we see of, that they like to say that they're a team built on adversity. And this is a guy who went to Holy Cross and has had to fight for every inch that's been given to him in the NFL and bounced around 4 or 5 teams in his early days. There was a time where he muffed a punt with the Jets, got cut, thought his career might be over. He was just telling us today after this game that when he was with the Giants, he was struggling so much. He walked out of the building one day and he was so down because he thought his career was over, done. And he decided to dedicate himself to football that offseason. Fully, he had his mom waving pool noodles as he was trying to catch punts off a jugs machine just to work on his hands. And comes to Detroit in that era of his career and finds a coaching staff that believes in him and builds confidence in him. And, well, I mean, you can see the quickness, everything was always there, but it was a broken player at one point, and they put him back together. And they did it for a league minimum contract at first, and he became an all-pro in Detroit and is now a fixture here on special teams and is a do-everything guy on offense when he's called upon. And, Ben, this was their first game without Jamison Williams. The question was, what are they going to do without an explosive guy going over the top of the defense? And they found ways to score in every other way, including with Khalif Raymond getting an expanded role on offense and doing his thing on special teams, reminding everyone, hey, I'm pretty fast too.
Yeah, that's 2 touchdown catches in 2 weeks for Raymond. He had a nice role in last week's game. And I always go back to this. When Khalif Raymond, they signed him, the only reason I had ever heard that name is because he was always the fastest Madden free agent when he would play with your franchise mode. And I'd be like, oh, they signed this super fast guy. But no, it's pretty awesome stuff that he has a punt return against the Jets, revenge tour. Punt return against the Titans, revenge tour today. And Khalif's like the least revenge motivated guy on the face of the earth, I would say almost. But it's just such a cool story. And I know you were in there for Dan talking after the game. Dan talking about the story of Brad Holmes coming to him about showing him tape on Khalif Raymond, and then 10 plays in being like, yeah, we can do something with this guy. It's just it just goes back to this coaching staff's ability to develop guys, and Brad Holmes knowing what the right mix, knowing what the right risks and right kind of guys that might be able to rise. Because he's played a major role. That's 3 touchdowns in 2 weeks. Big game last week in Minnesota, even bigger today. And that's how you fill the JMO gap for these now 1 game left on the suspension.
Yeah, and it's a big game. It's Green Bay. You're 6-1. You have a real chance. Green Bay won again today, by the way. So they're 1 game behind the Lions in the NFC North of a brutal division. It's an important games. And losing JMO hurts, but they showed today, as they showed previously with Aiden Hutchinson, this is a team, just to be as corny as possible about it. They're so deep and they can win in so many ways on all sides of the ball and on special teams. They're really able to have such a knack for navigating attrition. And this is an attrition league. Every team goes through it. No one's at full strength, particularly when the games matter the most in December, January, February. And this is a team built on adversity, if you will. They have done it the hard way. I mean, man, 2021 was brutal.
Yeah, man.
Khalif Raymond was here for that. And now today he's walking into a post-game press conference and he's got his little briefcase thing. And I saw a long piece of medical tape along the side of his briefcase, and it read in marker, today's date, 10/27/2024. You're a badass. I don't know. I don't know who wrote it. If it was him, I suppose it was probably a teammate. By the way, your was misspelled. It hurt the writer in me, but just a remarkable story. And I think the last thing I would say on Khalif is that for as much publicity as Amon-Ra St. Brown gets for his work ethic and the 202 catches off the jugs machine after every practice and all that stuff that has been written and said a million times, Khalif Raymond probably beats like he's probably the last guy off the field more often.
Yep.
The work ethic is astounding, and when you see undrafted receivers come in, late round guys, these young kids who are trying to learn their way, the coaches tell them, do what Khalif does.
Yes.
That's what they tell them, and just follow Khalif. And there's so many days in camp the past couple of years where I can remember these young rookies who have long shots to make the team. But Dylan Drummond last year, for example, or some of the guys they had in camp this year trying to make the team. Like Khalif would be out there for 45 minutes sometimes, just catching passes, catching punts off the jugs. I mean, this guy puts in the work. He looks like a guy who's had to fight for every inch in the league, and he almost got ran out of the league, and now he's out here starring in a historic win for one of the best teams in football. It's really just an awesome story.
He deserves the shine. Like, he deserves us talking about him this much too, because I'm glad you brought that up. Drummond was like that last year. Isaiah Williams today, or not today, but like throughout this year, has given me so much stuff. Like, I can learn so much from St. Brown, but he's like, I try to be super glued to Raymond's hip at practice, man. There's so much to learn from that guy. He's such an important glue piece for this team, and we tried to give him his flowers when we were talking about all the wide receiver 3 concerns this year, just because that's not his mold, but he can still fill in those gaps just as a gadget guy, as a regular guy, and just they continue to get so much out of him, and it just really just speaks volumes about where this team is, the state of the franchise, top to bottom, man, because that's just what a weird day. I'm looking at the stats you got pulled up right here.
Sticking with that passing game, Ben, it's just a weird day. You've got nobody with 50 yards receiving in this game. It's like Laporta leads the way with 48 yards. He had a touchdown. Brock Wright, Brock Wright also had
nice.
Shout out Dan Miller. They both had touchdowns on National Tight End Day. It was
that's right.
A nice way to celebrate. I feel like Brock Wright, he's such a role player. He's a guy you forget that he's out there for 3/4 of the season, but there's like 2 or 3 games a year where he makes a monstrous play.
No, absolutely. God, he's always there. I mean, shoot, there's so many plays you can think of. Like, just, the fact that you have a Dan Miller on replay of screaming Brock Wright's name in your head is just awesome. And they just do such a great job today. Ben Johnson really is just, I'll just say, just what they do with their options when it's games like this and St. Brown's not, and you're just handed a weird flow. Like, it was a weird flow and you still spread it out. You still get the job done. I mean, they were working with short fields a lot, but like taking care of that every single time is not easy.
The running game produced 164 yards on 24 carries. That's 6.8 a touch and 2 touchdowns. Again, they can beat you in so many ways, run, air, whatever. You sell it against the run, they'll beat you in the pass. Sell it against the pass, they'll hammer your ass on the ground. And that's what they do for the second straight week. I mean, just to show the depth of this team, David Montgomery, he got that extension a couple weeks ago for a big reason. He is in so many ways the heartbeat of the offense. He embodies the culture of this rebuild. Just tough player. Not everyone can do it every single week. And the last 2 weeks have been rougher for Montgomery. Jahmyr Gibbs showing up big. He had 160 yards from scrimmage last week in Minnesota. Got a game ball after the game, which has become like a huge tradition in the locker room. Like, it was a coming out party for him this year. Guys have been talking about. He's too talented to be this quiet for so long. And on a day where Demo got hurt and had a bad fumble, Gibbs had a big game. Today, same story, Ben. 127 yards on just 11 carries. That's 11.5 a pop. And, of course, 70 of them came on that touchdown run. And that, to me, is Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Like, I don't think he was touched in that play. Like, if he gets to the second level untouched, which with this offensive line, it happens, that dude's gone. Like, there's no one catching him. The only guy as fast as him in this building is Jameson Williams.
Absolutely. No, it was it was a perfect. I loved just the execution on that 70-yard run, because the first 20 yards were taken care of by everyone else, and then you put Gibbs 1-on-2 to beat the guys home, and he back-to-back weeks, career-long touchdown, back-to-back weeks, 100-plus yards on the ground. And just him finally banking, because they had been talking for so long, like, wait, Jahmyr's career long is only 38 yards? Like, no, that's not possible. That's ending soon. And back-to-back weeks, we've seen that kind of rewritten. And that 70-yard run, man, that was crazy. That was crazy speed to beat those guys to the outside. And just it was big play or bust today, it almost felt like, which is just crazy. And this offense is built to handle games like that.
It's crazy to think that they had 3 sacks in the first 9 offensive plays in this game and scored 52 points. That their quarterback, Jared Goff, had 85 yards passing. He net 9 yards.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was the net?
Because of the sacks. And they scored 52 points. And they did it without J-Mo. I mean, at this point, I just feel like the only team, to my mind, that can beat the Lions is the Lions. I know they lost to Tampa early in the year, but they look like a different team right now. And man, I don't know how you beat them. They're so deep and so well rounded, and they do. And you know, one week it's Amon-Ra for 100 yards and a couple scores. Another week it's Jahmyr Gibbs. Another week it's David Montgomery. Another week it's Sam Laporta. Another week it's Amon-Ra throwing to Jared Goff. Like the trick plays, like this offense is the hottest in football. Jared Goff is the hottest quarterback in football. I know he didn't have to do as much today, but it was still efficient. 12 out of 15.
3 touchdowns.
3 touchdown passes.
Any quarterback in the league will take that with a win.
Yeah. He was asked about that after the game. I thought it was pretty funny. He was just talking about, like, you know, I've had a lot of games where I had a lot of yards and no touchdowns, so it all evens out, I guess. But I thought he played fine. You know, like, he was under a lot of duress. I think if there was one part of the offense to nitpick, it would be the offensive line. Taylor Decker, I thought, it's been a couple games now where he hasn't been Taylor Decker, and maybe something to monitor. You know, I don't know. Like, I would expect more from the offensive line. Yeah,
I would too, because Goff was taking some shots early, and like some real shots, and a couple of us were tweeting cute stuff about keeping Arden Key from getting on the plane to leave to Tennessee to fill the pass rush need. But yeah, that last week was the most pressures Decker had allowed in a couple of years, and this week I kind of expect more of the same. It seems like it solidified, but that might have been the weird flow. But yeah, the offensive line, a couple bumps along the way, man. I was a little like, oh crap, they might have to deal with because that was the one part about this Titans team that didn't worry me, but like the way that they could stay in this game is with Simmons, with Landry. They got Diggs, and I'm blanking on the other guy's name back deep too, but they have some playmakers on that defense. And early it was showing up, and then just the special teams and defense shortened the field, cut in half so many times, and the offense capitalized. And there you go. Complimentary football.
That's exactly what Dan Campbell said when he took the podium, because they scored 52 points, but a lot of, they had 4 or 5 drives started inside the Tennessee 30. So flipping to the defense, because I think the defense had as big of a role as a defense can in a game like this, the turnovers, and started with Trevor Nowaski. Like, we're talking about resilience and adversity and the ability to battle through. That's a great example. You have Derek Barnes, who is out for the long term with an injury. You have Malcolm Rodriguez, who goes down early with an ankle today, could be down for a couple of weeks. So you've got Trevor Nowaski, pride of Saginaw Valley State, out there, a guy you cut last year, and they didn't really want to cut him. They just didn't have a place for him. Arizona scooped him up, and when Arizona cut him earlier this year, they brought him back to Detroit, and we're excited about it. And we can see why. Dude can ball a little. He got his ankles broke a little bit on the Mason Rudolph touchdown run, but he had sacks in each of the last 2 games, including the one that put away the Minnesota game for good. And then today opens this up pretty early on with a big pick that really got the momentum flowing in Detroit's direction.
Yeah, Nowaski making me look wise. I was questioning my sanity for writing about him twice in the last 7 days, but it ended up working out. But yeah, Nowaski's great in that Sam spot. He's getting pressures. Great read on the interception off the pressure from Levi. I thought Levi Onwuzurike was the best defensive lineman for the Lions today. It really seemed like he was doing his best to create pressure, to move bodies. I know the Titans hit a couple runs, but just Levi getting a hit on the quarterback to force that interception. And then you got the confidence in the defensive backfield is ridiculous, man. I talked to Amik Robertson and Kirby Joseph in the locker room after the game. Amik's over here complaining that he wants interceptions, and Kirby's over here complaining that he wants punch outs. And I'm just like, all right, guys, take it easy. But yeah, Joseph, 5 interceptions on the year, 7 games. That's a career high for him. He's already kind of an established ball hawk. And this was the first to not happen in the opponent's end zone. And Robertson forces 2 fumbles today. And even the new guy, Isaiah Thomas, scooped one up. And I just... Shoot, I had one more. Oh, yeah, Terrion Arnold, man. No penalties again, and he was super sticky in coverage, made a couple hits right at the point of the ball. You're seeing that growth. You're seeing the maturation. After they get punched in the mouth a couple of times by Ridley early on, it really solidified, man, and that Titans offense had nothing going.
Yeah, Terrion had a real nice PBU on a third down pass to back when the game was still in some hand, So I think he's come a long way. I think he's playing good ball. I think he was playing pretty good ball even when he was committing all the penalties. He just had to find that line of what was going to be allowed and what wasn't at this level. And he's a kid figuring it out on the fly, and I think he's doing a pretty damn good job.
Yeah.
I thought the secondary really did its part in this game. I'm still concerned about the pass rush, and I think if you're going to nitpick about anything in this game at all, and it's hard to do in a 52-14 blowout,
right.
But this is a team with Super Bowl aspirations, so like the bar is raised, and so coming out of a game like this, like in years past, you'd be like, wow, the Lions, they won a big one.
Yeah.
And now it's like, what does this mean about January and February? And so I'm constantly thinking that way. And when I watch this pass rush, I have concerns. I really do. When they play a quarterback that's not Mason Rudolph, when they play a team that's not 1-5 and has some real deep issues on offense, what are they going to do? What are they going to do to this defense when, like the secondary is playing well, but right? Like, I mean, Mason Rudolph had a lot of time set past, and he broke containment in the pocket too quite a few times, and that's Mason Rudolph. So it's just, I mean, you're forgiven to even like wonder who some of these guys are out there. Like Muhammad, they just signed him to the practice squad last week. Isaiah Thomas signed him to the 53 last week, made his Lions debut today in the starting lineup. Like it's depleted there.
He did start, didn't he? That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Signed last week on the practice squad, starting this week for a first place team. It's bleak. It's tough. And now you're seeing some of the news roll out that Max Crosby's not for sale. Myles Garrett's not for sale. I think these are things that we expected. Roll back the tape, as Tease Tabor would say back in the day. Like, play the tape, press play. Like we talk, like these things are just pipe dreams. Maybe it would go through, but probably not. Brad Holmes doesn't want to do it, and teams don't usually just give away guys like Max Crosby. And it sounds like it's not going to happen. So you're going to have to figure it out with what you got here. And I think you like what you have in the linebackers. You're able to apply some pressure. Yeah. Alex Anzalone had a big sack in this one. He was unblocked though. Can your front four get home? That's something you need in the playoffs when you go against these great quarterbacks in do or die situations. And I don't know if they have those horses right now.
The Anzalone sack was the only of the game, right?
From Detroit, yeah.
From Detroit, yeah, and it was untouched on a blitz. And the linebackers, the defensive backs are obviously balling out at a special level right now that I haven't seen since I've been on this beat since 2019. But the linebackers are so rock solid right now. Anzalone had 2 clutch stops on right at the sticks, perfect tackles. Jack Campbell, there was 2 minutes left in this game, and Jack Campbell was still throwing guys around like it was the first quarter in a 0-0 game. I think Campbell had 10 tackles. Anzalone had nice. Yeah, a couple of one quarterback hit, but Anzo was in the backfield blitzing. It was solid stuff, and just you don't have Pascal. Rodriguez leaves early. Barnes is out. Hutchinson's out. Davenport's out. There's got to be an answer here because they're just – even in a dominating day for the defense, there just was not much pressure from the front group. I think Levi had himself a solid game. Aleem made a play or two, but it's just there's not enough right now. Even if Pascal's back next week, like he told me he expected to be, there's just not enough on the edges right now. You keep waiting to see that James Houston that we saw 2 years ago, and it's not there.
Put him on a milk carton. I just don't see the fit. Even with their depth issues, I wouldn't be surprised if he's not in Detroit by the end of the year. With the way he's playing, he just doesn't have a role. I mean, he's a square peg round hole.
Yeah, and it's so clear that it's not a fit in the scheme and with this coaching staff, and they're trying to give him spots to make plays because they've seen that spark. But I'm kind of with you too. That's not even a hot take. I feel like I don't think he will finish the season here, and that's crazy to say based on everything we just talked about.
Yeah. A lot of short fields thanks to the defense, also to special teams. And we don't usually do a special teams segment in these post game wrap ups, but I think it deserves it today. Last week it was Jake Bates hitting the winner in Minnesota. Today it was Khalif Raymond running all over the place. 190 yards.
That's stupid.
190 yards on punt return. I mean, he went for 64, set up a touchdown, one for 90 that he took to the house. There was no long one there too. And then you have Khalil Dorsey, who also took back a kick return to around the 27-28.
Yeah.
I mean, Dave Phipp is going to be one happy dude this week.
No, he absolutely is going to be, because they finally did what they've been waiting to do all year and get a chance on a kick return. Get Khalif a real chance on a punt return. I will say that 90-yarder, he gave credit to his blockers on that one. I watched it back. There was some nightmare blocking going on that. Terrion Arnold is face down on the field at the 50-yard line before Khalif has caught the ball. Two guys outran the coverage, and Khalif just did it. And the next return he had a solid return on the next one. He turned to me and said, heat check. I think it got called back on a penalty because he was literally like Barry Sanders crossing the field back and forth.
Yeah, that was a heat check. He was coming perpendicular to where you're supposed to be going.
But shoot, even Jake Bates, 51-yarder today. First Lions kicker franchise history to make their first 11 field goals. They've had some good kickers in their history. So it's like, the special teams is getting an A+ in my grades tomorrow morning, just to spoil that.
I think the coaching should too.
I think so too.
This is a classic trap game in the NFL. Up down theory, all that stuff you want to talk about. Like, it was 5-1 versus 1-5. The Lions were rolling, but they had some injuries coming back home. Like, it just felt like a classic trap game in the NFL, an up down game in the NFL, and they took them to the woodshed. And we talked about Ben Johnson and his coaching. Of course, Dan Campbell's coaching to get the guys up and not take these guys for granted. And then, Dave Phipp on the special teams, and even going back to training camp, the decisions around Jake Bates to bring him in, to stick with him through some trials. They brought in some competition with like a field goal kicking competition, basically, workout, and sticking with Bates through that. And even sticking with him rolling into the regular season, but explicitly saying he's a young guy. He's got a golden leg. Just give us some time to develop him. Don't make too much of the mistakes. And here we are, going into week 8, and he's 11 for 11, and he's hitting a game winner. Last week he was 4 for 4 or 5 for 5 the week before that. And today, 51-yarder. I mean, the kid continues to impress.
And I don't think people understand how bad it was going into those Giants joint practices. His performance before going to New York for that week was like the worst practice I had ever laid my eyes on. And for them sticking with him, no matter what they felt about the kid, who he is or his leg, that was not easy. And once again, they made the right read.
Was that you talking about the scrimmage?
Yes. Yeah, that was insane. Brutal. It was crazy. I was like, where's Ryan Santoso?
Yeah.
So credit to them. They find these diamonds in the rough, and they get the most out of them, and they continue. This team has so many glue guys, man. Like, it's just unbelievable. Yeah. So, A+ for the coaches, too.
Yeah, I mean, all over the field, Ben. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of your stars. He's a 4th-round, day 3 pick. Yep. You have Trevor Nowatzki ending the game last week with a sack, starting this one off with an interception. I mean, these guys, like, just walking in off the street, Khalif Raymond, like, walking in, like, he thought his career was over, and today he's going 190 yards on punt returns and scoring 2 touchdowns. It's the story of this team, right? A bunch of underdogs, guys who've been counted out other places, and you have some dogs in there too, but it's they knew what they were doing when they built this team, and I don't know. I think you feel culture maybe more in college. Sometimes it's easier to get kids to rally. I feel that kind of atmosphere in that locker room. They love each other. They love this team. And I mean, to a man, they're all willing. I mean, you should have seen the smile on Jared Goff's face. He threw 85 yards today. Like that's this kind of team. And Jared Goff himself counted out, like, traded away for nothing. Right. I mean, begging the Lions to take his contract, like giving away a 1st-round pick to just take Jared Goff off our hands. And now here he is leading the hottest team in football and the hottest offense in football.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
It is. Big game next week.
Big game.
Packers won at the buzzer this week. Jordan Love did not finish that game. Something to track there. But, man, Lions, Packers, Lambeau Field.
Let's do it.